Have you ever found yourself in a conversation or maybe just scrolling online and a new word or a slang term just kind of pops up? You know all the individual words, right? But put them together and suddenly you're in this like linguistic maze.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you just want to know what people really mean.
Exactly. You want that shortcut.
Yeah.
Well, if that sounds familiar, then you are definitely where you need to be today. We're doing a deep dive into the vibrant and sometimes wonderfully baffling world of C2 level English slang.
Right.
Our mission is pretty clear. We've got this comprehensive list, 50 modern slang expressions, all with real-life examples. And we're here to pull out the most important bits of knowledge and insight specifically for you, our curious listener.
Think of it as your express pass.
Yeah, an express pass to navigating language that honestly feels like it's changing every single second.
And this deep dive, it goes beyond just, vocabulary list. Our source material. It's an excerpt from a modern English slang compendium. And what's really valuable is that these aren't just passing fads. These terms, they reflect current native level fluency. They capture subtle nuances across, all sorts of aspects of modern life. So truly grasping them means understanding these deeper cultural shifts, the communication styles happening right now.
That's a really insightful way to put it. We're going to cover everything from, say, the tricky landscape of modern relationships to the wild west of social media, how we express emotions, talk about style, even the kind of nitty-gritty of daily life and work.
Get ready for some aha moments, I think.
Definitely. Let's jump right in. Okay, let's start with an area that has just exploded with new vocabulary, modern dating and relationships.
It really has.
It's kind of remarkable, isn't it, how technology, dating apps, evolving social norms, they've completely reshaped how we interact romantically.
Oh, absolutely. The way we connect, or sometimes, importantly, don't connect, it's definitely spawned a whole new lexicon.
It really has.
And it's fascinating because these terms, they act as incredibly concise shorthand for really complex social dynamics.
Right.
They manage to bottle up subtle behaviors, emotional states that just a few years ago we didn't really have specific labels for. They kind of formalize these experiences. This gives us a shared language.
Shared language is so key for understanding, So let's unpack some of the most common and frankly pretty intriguing terms you'll likely encounter.
Okay.
First up, the dreaded ghosting. This basically means abruptly ending all communication with someone, maybe after a date, maybe just whenever, without any explanation.
Yeah, it's gone.
Exactly. You might hear someone say, he completely ghosted me after our first date and never replied to my texts. Poof.
Ouch.
Then there's benching. This describes keeping someone, on standby, a backup option. You're kind of stringing them along.
Right. Keeping your options open, but maybe not in the fairest way.
Exactly. Imagine someone saying, I realized she was benching me when she only texted me late at night. Only when convenient.
And that leads into breadcrumbing too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Leading someone on with these small, maybe friendly messages, flirty comments.
Little crumbs.
Yeah, little digital crumbs, but with no real intention of a serious relationship.
He only sends flirty texts when he's bored. I think he's breadcrumbing me.
It's interesting how these terms really highlight a certain, maybe, lack of directness that digital communication sometimes allows or even encourages.
That's a good point. And that kind of leads us directly to the idea of a situationship.
Oh, yes.
Which is, a romantic relationship, often physically intimate, but it just lacks any clearly defined status or commitment. It's ambiguous.
Very ambiguous. You hear the frustration, right? Like, are we dating or just hanging out? She asked. Totally tired of their undefined situationship.
That uncertainty, yeah, it can be exhausting. Now, another term, this one describes more of a manipulative pattern, is love bombing.
That sounds intense.
It is. It's giving someone excessive affection, gifts, flattery, but in a manipulative way. The goal is to quickly win them over.
Almost overwhelmingly.
Exactly. A classic example. On the first day of meeting, he sent dozens of roses. It felt like love bombing. It's too much, too soon.
Right. Feels off.
And just to quickly mention a few others in this whole relationship space, cloaking. That's standing someone up for a date and then blocking them everywhere.
Wow, adding insult to injury.
Totally. Then orbiting, that's liking someone's social media posts, watching their stories, but without any direct communication, just kind of hovering.
Like a satellite?
Yeah. Woke fishing is pretending to have progressive values to attract a partner. Cuffing season, that's the urge to find a partner for the colder months.
A seasonal thing.
Right. A catfish is someone with a fake online profile, obviously. And wifey, that's a term, sometimes affectionate, sometimes maybe a bit objectifying. For a girlfriend, seen as wife material.
What's really insightful about terms like, say, ghosting, breadcrumbing, and situationship is how they formalize these previously kind of amorphous, often hurtful behaviors in the digital dating world. They give people a common vocabulary, to talk about and process experiences that used to just be vaguely bad dates or being messed around.
Right. It gives it a name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This new language, it signifies a collective push, even if it's often unspoken, for clearer communication, or at least acknowledging its absence. So for you, understanding this isn't just about definitions. It's about recognizing patterns, getting a clearer lens on modern social dynamic.
It's all about that clearer lens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally. And speaking of the digital world, let's shift gears to the internet and social media.
Okay.
These platforms have become just massive engines for new slang, reflecting unique online behaviors, influence, the challenges of digital interaction. It's huge.
It is remarkable how many of these terms, they don't just stay online, do they? They've seeped right into everyday face-to-face conversations.
Oh, completely.
It just highlights how pervasive the internet's influence really is on, well, all of our communication.
This next batch really shows the kind of wild dynamics of online spaces. Let's start with Karen.
Right. That one's definitely out there.
It's a pejorative term, generally for an entitled, often middle-aged woman who demands special treatment or complains a lot.
The stereotype is pretty specific.
Yeah. For example, that lady who demanded to speak to the manager over a small refund, total Karen behavior.
Yeah.
And then there's clapback.
Ah, the clapback.
A quick, sharp response to criticism or an insult. Like, when the troll insulted her, she had the perfect clapback ready. Bam!
Very direct.
Yeah.
And the term clout is so relevant now, especially with influencers.
Definitely.
It just refers to influence or popularity, especially on social media, often something people actively chase or show off.
Right. Someone might say, she posts outrageous photos just for clout, hoping to get more followers.
And then to stan someone.
Oh, yeah, the stans.
It means to be an extremely devoted, maybe even obsessed fan of someone or something. You say, I absolutely stan that band. I know every single lyric.
It's intense fandom, and the acronym GOATEOAT.
Greatest of all time.
Exactly. Used to call someone or something the absolute best in their field. Many consider Serena Williams the GOAT of tennis. Pretty common now.
Very common.
Now, a term that has definitely sparked a lot of debate, cancel culture.
Complex topic.
It is. It refers to the practice of collectively withdrawing support, especially online, from public figures or companies seen as offensive. For instance, the comedian faced cancel culture after some old tweets resurfaced.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, our goal here is simply to help you understand the term and how it's used, not to endorse any particular view on the practice itself.
That's important context.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to FOMO, fear of missing out.
Ah, the anxiety of the modern age.
Totally. That anxious feeling that everyone else might be having fun or important experiences without you. I had serious FOMO when I saw all my friends at the concert last night.
We've all felt that, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
Then, to spill the tea.
You can share the gossip, right?
Exactly. Reveal the juicy information. Come on, spill the tea, I urged my friend. Get the gossip flowing.
And for those online arguments, you need receipts.
Oh, you gotta have the receipts. Proof or evidence, usually digital, like screenshots, to settle a dispute or prove someone said something.
You said you didn't, but I have the receipts, she said, pulling up the message.
Can't argue with the receipts. A few others quickly. Okay, boomer. That dismissive retort, usually from younger people to older ones. Based, meaning confident in being yourself, unashamed. And simp, which describes excessive submissiveness towards a love interest, often online.
You know, the speed at which terms like Karen, clapback, and cancel culture have taken hold, it really reflects this profound societal tension, doesn't it? Between calls for immediate accountability, online anyway, and the complexities of public forgiveness in this digital age.
That's a really sharp observation.
So for you, the listener, understanding these isn't just about decoding online chat. It's about recognizing these shifting power dynamics, the constant search for authenticity, even performative authenticity in our digitally saturated world.
It truly is. And the way these terms capture complex online stuff leads us nicely into how slang helps us express emotions more generally.
Right. New terms are always popping up to capture nuanced feelings, immediate reactions.
It makes you wonder, why do we need these new words when we have so many perfectly good old ones?
Well, that's the fascinating part. These terms, they add a specific color and intensity to communication. They often reflect a more informal, direct way of expressing yourself that maybe older terms don't quite capture as vividly.
They get the feeling across instantly.
Exactly.
Okay, prepare for some terms that will definitely have you feeling things. Kicking us off, slay.
Slay. Very positive.
Very. It means to do something exceptionally well, succeed spectacularly. Often said with loads of enthusiasm. Wow, you slayed that presentation.
Nice. Then there's cringe.
Oh, the cringe. That feeling of embarrassment or awkwardness, often from watching someone else's behavior, like secondhand embarrassment.
Totally. Stop showing me those old videos of myself. They make me cringe. We've all been there.
Definitely. If someone's feeling salty.
They're annoyed, right?
Yeah, upset, irritated, maybe resentful, usually over something pretty minor. He got really salty when he lost the game by just 1 point.
Holding a grudge.
Kinda. And if something is savage...
Ooh, savage. Can be good or bad almost.
Yeah, it's bold, fierce, or maybe ruthlessly witty, sometimes in a cool, impressive way. Did you see her response to that troll? That was savage, like brutally honest but effective.
Gotcha. And that kind of leads into shade, maybe?
It does. Shade is subtle, often clever disrespect or insult. Throwing shade means making that kind of insult.
Often with plausible deniability.
Exactly. You might hear someone mutter, that was some serious shade. If you're...
Shook.
Surprised, shocked. Extremely surprised, shocked, or just unsettled. I was completely shook when I saw the bill for the meal, like taken aback.
Okay.
We also have sick, which is slang for cool or awesome.
Yeah.
Totally the opposite of its usual meaning.
Right, like that's sick means that's great.
Precisely. Have you seen his new guitar? It's sick. And for when something is just incredibly funny, we say, I'm dead.
As in dying of laughter.
Exactly. Did you hear what he said? I'm dead, she gasped between laughs.
Huh. Oh.
Other quick ones here. Mood, used when something is super relatable and matches your current feelings. Slaps means something is exceptionally good, often a song or food. This pizza slaps. And extra, meaning over the top, excessive, or dramatic behavior.
These terms, they really allow for incredibly quick, impactful expressions. You see it particularly among younger generations, right? They seem to value that brevity and emotional resonance in communication.
It's like a linguistic shortcut.
Yeah, exactly. A shortcut to conveying a whole feeling with just one word.
That linguistic efficiency is so key. Okay, now let's dive into the world of fashion, personal style, how people describe looking good.
The aesthetics.
Right. Language here can be super subjective and incredibly trend-driven. What's cool today might be cringe tomorrow.
That's a great point. And these terms, they often aren't just about the clothes themselves, are they? They encapsulate this blend of confidence, effort, current aesthetic values. It's the whole presentation.
Totally. It's the vibe, which is actually one of the words. But first, let's get into how people talk about looking fabulous. Starting with drip.
Drip? Heard that one a lot.
Yeah, it refers to style or fashion, especially fashionable, attractive clothing. Basically, having good style. Check out his new jacket. He's got serious drip now.
Okay, so it's about the overall look being cool.
Yeah. Then there's bougie. Sometimes spelled B-O-U-G-I-E, means fancy, luxurious, or high class, often with a little hint of being flashy or trying too hard, maybe.
Right, like she chose the most bougie restaurant in town for her birthday dinner.
Yeah.
A bit extra, perhaps.
Could be. We also have Gucci, used like good or cool.
Just like the brand.
Yeah, probably borrowing from the brand's luxurious image. Means excellent, cool, fine. That plan is Gucci with me, she said, meaning everything's fine, I agree.
Okay, versatile.
And vibe, as we mentioned, the atmosphere or feel of a person or place can also mean being in tune with something, usually positively. I love the vibe in this cafe. It's so relaxed and cozy.
You feel the vibe. And when something is really amazing, exciting, fun, especially parties or events, it's lit.
Yes, the concert last night was lit. The crowd went wild. High energy, great time.
Got it. And if someone is called a snack.
Yeah, that's slang for a very attractive person. So good looking that one is. Metaphorically, snacking on them with their eyes. Like,
okay.
Wow, look at Jake in that suit. He's such a snack. It's objectifying, but usually meant playfully, I guess.
And snatched.
Snatched means looking very fashionable, well put together, perfect, on point, often used for makeup or an outfit.
Like flawless.
Exactly. Her makeup is snatched as always flawless and beautiful. You might also hear low-key, meaning somewhat, kinda, or secretly. I'm low-key excited. Or finna, which is just slang for fixing to, meaning about to. I'm finna leave.
These terms, they really do reflect a societal focus on aesthetics, don't they? Self-expression, the subtle cues we send through our appearance, our overall presence.
Yep.
They kind of underscore how much value we often place, consciously or not, on the impression we create, often aiming for that effortless, cool maximum impact.
Absolutely. Maximum impact with minimum, or seemingly minimum, effort. Okay, to round things out, let's look at terms describing modern life, our responsibilities, work, our evolving social awareness.
Right. These terms often bubble up from shared experiences, don't they? Economic realities, a growing collective social consciousness. They offer this linguistic snapshot of common threads in modern living.
Good way to put it. Let's start with adulting.
Adulting, the struggle is real.
Isn't it? Doing those mundane but necessary adult tasks. Paying bills, chores, appointments. I have to pay all these bills, she grown. I hate adulting.
Relatable. Then there's the side hustle.
Very common now. A secondary job or gig that earns extra income on top of your main job.
Right. Like, she writes freelance articles as a side hustle to supplement her teaching salary. The gig economy in action.
Exactly. The term flex.
Showing off.
Pretty much. Showing off or boasting about something, especially wealth or possessions. He loves to flex his new car at every chance. Look what I got.
And a glow up. That sounds positive.
It is a big improvement in appearance, style, or confidence compared to how someone was in the past.
Like a transformation.
Yeah, she really had a glow up from high school to college. She looks amazing now. It's about positive change.
Nice.
Then there's the famous or infamous Netflix and chill.
Right. Doesn't always just mean Netflix and chillin'.
Exactly. It's a slang phrase, means hanging out at home, usually implying watching Netflix together, but often used as a euphemism for a casual hookup.
You got to read the context.
Definitely. Their study session turned into Netflix and chill, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink.
Gotcha. And the term woke.
Right. This one means being aware of social injustices and discrimination, originally slang for being alert to social issues.
Often used in political or social contexts now.
Yeah, like he's really woke. He reads about politics and always votes. And again, just like with cancel culture, we're presenting this term to help you understand its meaning and usage, not taking any political stance ourselves.
Important clarification.
And lastly, props.
Giving credit, right.
Exactly. Short for proper respect, means respect or credit due to someone. Props to you for finishing that project ahead of schedule. Good job.
These terms, taken together, they really do highlight these broader societal shifts, don't they? From the rise of the gig economy with side hustles, the pursuit of self-improvement in glow-ups, to this increased social consciousness filtering into everyday chat with terms like woke.
They're like mirrors.
Yeah, mirrors reflecting how we navigate and discuss our contemporary lives. It's quite something.
Wow. Okay, that was a serious deep dive. We just unpacked 50 C2 level slang terms, each with some real-life context. Hopefully you now feel we're equipped, right, with a stronger understanding of modern English. Our goal was really to give you that shortcut to being well-informed, quickly, thoroughly, but without feeling totally overwhelmed by just a massive list.
And remember, language is alive.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving. It doesn't stand still.
Never does.
So understanding these terms isn't just about, keeping up appearances. It's genuinely a key to unlocking richer communication, to truly grasping the nuances of contemporary conversations, whether they're happening online or right in front of you.
So what does all this mean for you, listening right now? In a world where new slang seems to pop up daily, what does the rapid adoption, the spread of these specific terms, tell us about our changing values, our priorities, maybe even our anxieties?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. And how will you continue to track this fascinating evolution of language? We really hope this deep dive helps you feel confident and ready for whatever linguistic curveball comes next.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling something that I think we all struggle with from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Expanding our vocabularies.
It can be tough.
Yeah. So today we're going to be working with this lesson plan I found.
Okay.
It's got 50 advanced English words that it wants to teach us.
Right.
And it's all broken down into these themed sections.
Okay.
Which is kind of nice for keeping it all organized.
I like that.
Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this deep dive, we'll not only have a whole stack of new words,
Yeah.
but also some ideas about how to use them effectively.
That's the important part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So our first section is called Words for Expressing Emotions.
Interesting.
And, I'm all for a good, like, happy or a sad.
Sure.
But looking through this list, I feel like there are some really evocative words in here that can help us take our communication to a whole new level.
I think that's right.
Like, okay, so one of the words is euphoric.
Ooh, I like that word.
Yeah. And it's just so much more intense than just saying, like,
It's just happy.
happy.
Right.
It's like that feeling of, like, pure joy and excitement.
Absolutely.
Like you're on top of the world.
Yeah, it's not just like you had a good day. It's like you won the lottery or something.
Okay, yeah, that's a way better example.
It's a feeling of like pure bliss.
Exactly.
Like you're floating on air.
Okay, so I'm sold on euphoric.
Uh-huh.
What about melancholy?
Oh, melancholy. That's a good one. It's
so much more layered than just sad.
way more. Yeah, it's not just like you're bummed out about something.
Right.
It's more of a deep, thoughtful kind of sadness, often tinged with a bit of like nostalgia or longing for something.
Okay, so how does mastering all these subtle shades of emotion actually help us?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like in real life?
I think the more precisely we can name our emotions, the better we can understand and process them.
Okay.
And also the better we can communicate them to other people.
Oh, that's a good point.
So like if a friend says they're feeling melancholy,
Yeah.
you get a much deeper understanding of what they're going through than if they just said sad.
Right.
And you can respond to them with more empathy and understanding.
Okay. I'm already feeling like I can express myself better.
I love it.
Let's move on to the next section, which is words for intellectual conversations.
Ooh, getting brainy.
I know, right?
Okay.
So these words are less about like showing off how smart you are and more about adding weight and clarity to your ideas when you're having those,
Those deep discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like one of the words that jumps out at me is conundrum,
Conundrum. Oh, that's a good one.
which is way more interesting than just saying problem, right?
For sure.
It implies this kind of complex issue with maybe no easy answers.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle that you're trying to figure out.
Okay, so what's like the advantage of using a word like that in, say, like a work meeting or something?
I think it shows that you're not oversimplifying things. You're acknowledging that the situation is complicated.
Yeah.
And that it requires like careful consideration and discussion.
So it can help elevate the conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, one of my favorites in here is ephemeral.
Ephemeral.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool sounding.
It is. It's almost like,
Like you're 1 minute, gone the next.
yeah, it's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's like a beautiful sunset
Oh, yeah.
or a shooting star, something that's special because it doesn't last forever.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this next one, ubiquitous. I feel like I hear this one a lot,
Yeah, me too.
but I'm not always sure if I'm using it right.
Well, it means that something is like everywhere.
Okay.
You can't escape it.
Like smartphones are ubiquitous?
Exactly. They're everywhere.
Okay, but isn't just saying like common good enough?
I mean, I guess you could say common,
Mm-hmm.
but ubiquitous just has a little more oomph to it.
Okay.
It suggests that something is not only common, but it's also having a significant impact on our lives.
I see. Like smartphones aren't just common. They've changed the way we communicate,
Right.
the way we work, the way we do everything.
Okay. Ubiquitous it is. Last one from this section before we move on.
Yeah.
Ambiguous. I always kind of fumble over that one.
Ambiguous basically just means that something is open to interpretation.
Okay.
It could have multiple meanings or be unclear.
Like a piece of abstract art.
Exactly.
Okay. But how does that word actually work in like a real conversation?
Well, let's say you're talking about a movie with a friend.
Okay.
And you say the ending was really ambiguous.
Yeah.
You're not just stating a fact, you're inviting a discussion about what the ending could mean.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a way to like spark a deeper analysis of something.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to words for describing people now.
Oh, I like this section.
Me too.
We're going to have fun with this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so describing people accurately, it's a real art form,
Oh.
And these words in this section will give you the tools to create these like really vivid portraits with your language.
Okay, well, let's start with charismatic. I always think of someone who like
Oh, yeah.
just owns a room. They have this magnetic energy.
It's like they just draw you in.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's more than just being charming.
Okay.
It's about inspiring others through your words and your actions.
Like Martin Luther King Jr.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's about impact as much as personality.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so what would be like the opposite of charismatic?
Well, maybe like reclusive.
Okay.
Someone who prefers to be alone.
Like a hermit.
Yeah, or like a brilliant artist who creates their masterpieces in solitude, away from all the distractions of the world.
Okay, I can think of a few authors who fit that description perfectly.
I bet you can.
All right, cynical. I always struggle with this one.
Yeah, it can be a tricky word.
Because it just seems so negative.
It does have a negative connotation. But it's basically about having a distrustful view of human nature.
Okay.
You know, always expecting the worst from people.
Like they think everyone has an ulterior motive.
Exactly.
So they see the world through this lens of like...
Cynicism.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But why use cynical? Wouldn't negative or pessimistic be the same thing?
I mean, they're similar, but cynical suggests something a bit deeper.
Okay.
It suggests that the person's negativity is rooted in like a disillusionment with the world.
Oh, I see.
Like they've been let down so many times that they just don't believe in goodness anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's not just a temporary bad mood. It's like a fundamental outlook on life.
Wow. There's so much to unpack with these words.
Oh, no. All right.
Okay. Let's move on to section 4 now.
All right.
This one's called Words for Everyday Contexts.
Everyday context.
Yeah, so are we talking about like spicing up our grocery lists now?
Maybe. But actually, these words might seem less flashy than the ones we've talked about so far. But they're super important because they're the words we use most often in our daily lives.
So like mandatory.
Mandatory, yes.
That one we hear all the time.
Oh, yeah. It's everywhere.
It just means like something is required, no two ways about it.
Right.
Like paying taxes.
Unfortunately, yes, very mandatory.
Exactly. But is there like...
But think about how that word is used in different situations.
Okay.
Like a sign that says fasten seatbelt. It uses mandatory not to be bossy, but because clarity is crucial.
It's important information.
Yes, and the word mandatory conveys that sense of importance.
Right, right.
So it's not just about the meaning of the word, but also the tone it sets.
Okay, I see what you mean. What about imminent?
Imminent means that something is about to happen very soon.
Okay.
Like if you see storm clouds gathering.
Yeah.
You know, a downpour is imminent.
Or like when you can feel that fall is in the air?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, how about procrastinate?
Ooh, procrastinate. One of my favorites.
I feel like I'm a pro at that one.
We all procrastinate sometimes.
Right. It's just so tempting to put things off.
It is, even when we know we shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on to the last section for this part.
Sounds good.
It's called Words for Expressing Ideas.
Ooh, this is where it gets really interesting.
I know, right?
These words are your tools for shaping thoughts and presenting your ideas in a compelling way.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
So first up, we have innovative.
Oh, innovative. That's a great word.
Which just means like fresh ideas and new approaches.
Right, but it's more than just being new.
Okay.
It's about coming up with solutions that are original and effective.
So like if someone invented a self-folding laundry basket.
Yes, that would be innovative.
That would change my life.
Right.
Okay, what about viable?
Viable means that something is practical and likely to succeed.
Okay.
So it's not just about having a good idea.
Right.
It's about whether that idea can actually be put into action.
Okay, so it's a really important word for like...
decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last one for this part. Tangible.
Tangible.
I actually use this word a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Well, it means that something is real and concrete.
Okay.
You can touch it, you can see it, you can measure it.
So it's the opposite of like abstract.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already, but we've still got 10 powerful words waiting for us in part 2.
I'm excited to keep going.
Me too. We'll be right back after a short break.
Let's do.
Welcome back, everyone. All right, so we are back, ready to tackle the rest of these words for expressing ideas.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, let's do it. What's up first?
How about ambivalent? That's a good one.
Ambivalent, okay.
It describes that feeling of being kind of torn between different options.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're not sure how you feel about something.
Like when you get a job offer, that sounds amazing, but it also means you'd have to move away from all your friends and family.
Yeah.
That's total ambivalence right there.
You've got the excitement of a new opportunity, but also the sadness of leaving everything you know behind.
And you can't really decide which feeling is stronger.
Right. It's like a tug of war in your mind.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm realizing that these words aren't just about sounding smart. It's more about understanding all those little nuances of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's next?
Let's go with cohesive. This word is all about how things fit together
Okay.
to create a unified whole.
Like a well-coordinated team.
Exactly.
Where everyone's working together seamlessly.
Yeah, everyone knows their role, and they're all contributing to the same goal.
I like it. Give me a word that's kind of the opposite of that.
How about arduous?
Arduous. Okay.
This one's for those tasks that require a lot of effort and perseverance.
Like training for a marathon?
Exactly.
Or writing a novel?
Yeah, or even just cleaning out your closet.
Oh, man, tell me about it.
But seriously, arduous implies that something is not just difficult, it's also demanding and time-consuming.
So it's not just a quick chore you can knock out in an afternoon.
No, it's something that you really have to commit to.
Okay. Arduous it is. What's next on the list?
Feasible. This one's all about practicality.
Feasible.
Is something realistically achievable, given the resources and constraints you have?
Like if you're planning a trip with friends.
Yeah.
And someone suggests a cross-country road trip, but, you only have a week's vacation and a limited budget.
Right. Then the road trip might not be feasible.
Exactly. Okay, give me another one.
How about proficient?
Proficient.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It means you're skilled or competent in a certain area.
Like, I'm pretty proficient at baking chocolate chip cookies.
Nice.
But I'm definitely not proficient at playing the guitar.
Well, there's always time to learn.
True. Okay, what's next?
How about profound? This one's a big one.
Profound, okay.
It's about experiences or ideas that have a deep and lasting impact on us.
Like a life-changing event. Yes. Or a book that completely alters your perspective.
Or even just a conversation that really makes you think.
Exactly.
Profound experiences can really shape who we are.
I think so too.
Okay, last one for this section.
All right, let's wrap up with plausible.
Plausible.
Okay. It basically means that something is believable or reasonable.
Okay.
Given the evidence or context.
So if someone tells you a story that sounds a little too good to be true,
yeah,
you might question whether it's actually plausible.
Exactly. It's a good reminder to be critical thinkers.
I like it. Okay, so we've officially conquered all 20 words in the Words for Expressing Ideas section.
We did it.
I feel like my brain is about to explode with all this new knowledge.
It's a good feeling, right?
It is. But you know what?
What's that?
I think we have one more section to go.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, let's take a quick break and then come back to tackle those final 10 words.
Sounds good to me. See you in a few.
All right, we're back for the final stretch of our vocabulary odyssey.
I'm ready to wrap up this deep dive with those last 10 words.
Me too. Let's dive in. What's the first word we're tackling?
Okay, so let's start with articulate.
Oh, articulate.
It's a great word to describe someone who can express themselves clearly and effectively.
So like someone who's a really good public speaker.
Exactly.
Or someone who can write really well.
Yeah, they can put their thoughts into words in a way that's easy to understand and follow.
So it's not just about using big words.
No, it's more about using the right words.
Right, and arranging them in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. It's about clarity and precision.
I like it. Okay, what's next?
How about concise?
Concise, okay.
It means expressing something in a brief and to-the-point way.
So it's like the opposite of rambling.
Very much.
So like instead of saying due to the fact that, you could just say because.
Exactly.
It gets the point across without any unnecessary fluff.
I think that's important in any kind of communication.
Yeah, being concise can really help keep people engaged.
Especially in today's world where everyone's attention span is so short.
So true. Okay, what's next on our list?
Eloquent.
Eloquent. Ooh, I like that one.
It's similar to articulate, but it takes it a step further.
Okay, how so?
It suggests that someone is not only clear and effective in their communication, but they're also graceful and persuasive.
So they have a way with words. It's almost like poetry?
Yeah, think of someone like Barack Obama.
Oh yeah, he's definitely eloquent.
His speeches are always so moving and inspiring.
Okay, eloquent is definitely going on my list of words to use more often.
Me too. Okay, what about fluid?
Fluid. Okay.
It describes something that flows smoothly and effortlessly.
Like a dancer's movements?
Yeah, or a writer's prose.
Or even just a really good conversation.
Exactly. When something is fluid, it just feels natural and easy.
I love that.
Okay.
What's next?
Let's talk about persuasive.
Persuasive.
It's all about convincing someone to see things your way.
Okay, so it's like being able to make a really strong argument.
Yeah, and using logic and evidence to support your points.
And maybe appealing to their emotions a little bit too.
Maybe a little.
So it's a really important skill to have in any area of life.
Absolutely. Whether you're trying to get a promotion at work or convince your friends to try a new restaurant.
Persuasion is key. Okay, give me another one.
How about succinct?
Succinct.
It's similar to concise, but it emphasizes being even more brief.
So it's like getting straight to the point without any extra words.
Exactly. Think of it as like a Twitter post.
Where you only have 280 characters to get your message across.
Perfect example.
Okay. I can definitely see how being succinct can be a valuable skill.
Especially in written communication.
All right. What are we down to?
We have 3 left. How about coherent?
Coherent. Okay.
It means that something is logical and easy to understand.
So all the ideas are connected in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a clear flow from one point to the next.
Okay, so it's like the opposite of being all over the place.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Compelling.
Compelling.
This one's about capturing someone's attention and making them want to learn more.
So it's like being able to tell a really good story.
Yeah, or giving a presentation that really draws people in.
So it's about being engaging and interesting.
Exactly. A compelling argument or story is one that you can't help but listen to.
Okay, last one. What is it?
Insightful.
Ooh, insightful. I like that one.
It describes someone or something that offers a deep understanding of a topic.
So like a really thought-provoking book?
Yeah, or a conversation with someone who really knows their stuff.
It's about getting beyond the surface level and really exploring the nuances of an issue.
Exactly. Insightful observations can really change the way we see the world.
Wow. I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
I know, right? It's been quite a journey.
We started with just a list of 50 words, and now I feel like we have a whole new understanding of how to use language effectively.
It's amazing how much power there is in words.
I know. And it's not just about sounding smart. It's about connecting with others.
Absolutely.
And expressing ourselves in a way that's authentic and meaningful.
Well said.
Thanks. So to all our listeners out there,
yeah,
we hope you've enjoyed this vocabulary adventure as much as we have.
We encourage you to keep exploring new words.
And keep pushing yourselves to communicate more effectively.
And never underestimate the power of language.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Bye, everyone.
All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into business English.
Okay.
But not just like your basic vocabulary and definitions. We're going to kind of go a little bit deeper into like how language can actually completely transform your presence in like any professional setting.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting about that is that we tend to focus so much on like the technical aspects of language, grammar and vocabulary, all that stuff, but we kind of forget about the psychological impact of the words we choose. It's like having a secret code almost that can influence, how people perceive us and how they respond to our ideas, and ultimately how we can really, effectively navigate the world of business.
Okay, so not just about sounding smart or professional,
Right.
but using language strategically to like get what you want.
Exactly. Like think about it. Every phrase, every word is like a little signal. It conveys more than just the surface meaning.
Okay, I like that. So you've got a script here with 20 powerful business English phrases. So what are some of the first ones that can help us make a strong first impression?
Well, right out of the gate, we have, let's get started.
Seems simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a really good way to subtly establish leadership. Taking initiative to kick things off, you're signaling confidence and a proactive mindset.
I can see that. But doesn't it also depend on like the context? Like if you're in a meeting with your boss, maybe you want to let them take the lead.
Yeah, for sure. Adaptability is key.
Yeah.
Let's get started is perfect for situations where you're expected to take charge. Or, like you said, if you want to like inject some energy into a conversation that's stalled.
But reading the room is important.
Always.
Okay, so it's not just about memorizing the phrases. It's about understanding like the nuances of when and how to use them.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so we have, I'd like to introduce Handy. Now, this might seem like basic courtesy, but it's actually a little deeper than that. When you take the time to introduce people, you're showing respect for them and acknowledging their presence. And this can really foster a more inclusive and collaborative atmosphere right from the start.
Yeah, it's funny how something so simple can have such a big impact on the whole dynamic.
Okay, I'm starting to see the power of these phrases.
And then there's, can we schedule a meeting? Again, this might seem obvious, but think about it. What's the alternative? Popping into someone's office or, sending a bunch of emails back and forth.
Right.
But formally requesting a meeting shows respect for their time, and it shows that you're organized.
Okay, I'm definitely guilty of the, popping in. I can see how that can come across as,
yeah,
disorganized. or even disrespectful, especially for people who really value structure
Totally.
and clear communication.
Yeah, and everyone's so busy these days, so valuing people's time is a huge asset.
Okay, so we've talked about those first few phrases, setting the tone and creating that positive first impression. But what about when you're in the middle of a discussion and things are getting a little bit heated or going off topic? What are some phrases that can help navigate those situations?
Well, one of my favorites is, let's circle back to that. It's just a really nice way to kind of steer the conversation back on track without, being confrontational or dismissive. You're acknowledging what the other person is saying, but signaling that it's not the priority right now.
Right. Okay. That's much better than saying we're getting sidetracked. But is there a risk that the person will feel like their idea is being ignored?
Yeah, that's where, active listening is really important. You don't want to just say the phrase and move on, make a mental note to come back to it, or even suggest a specific time to discuss it. It shows them that you value what they're saying, even if it's not the focus right this second.
So it's like you're balancing acknowledging their idea, but also maintaining control of the conversation, but making sure that everyone feels heard.
Exactly.
It's like a little dance.
It is. Okay, what else?
Okay, so then we have, you clarify that. This one's all about clear communication, which is so important in any professional setting.
For sure.
By asking for clarification, you're not only making sure that you understand, but you're also prompting them to articulate their thoughts more clearly.
Yeah, because sometimes you think you understand what someone means, but then when you ask for clarification, it can reveal these hidden nuances, or even prevent misunderstandings later on.
Exactly. And especially in business where decisions have big consequences, clarity is crucial.
Yeah, it could be the difference between a successful project and, a big mistake.
Huge.
Okay, so we've covered setting the tone, protecting everyone's time, steering the conversation back on track, and making sure that everyone's communicating clearly. What's next?
So welcome back to our deep dive into, the power of language and business English.
Okay, so before we move on to the next set of phrases, I think it's interesting that you mentioned empathy. I usually think about empathy in terms of personal relationships, not really in the workplace.
Yeah, that's a pretty common misconception, actually. But, even in a professional setting, you're dealing with people who have, their own motivations and perspectives and even insecurities. So when you tap into that empathy, you can really create a more understanding and collaborative environment.
Okay, I'm curious, how does empathy translate to practical communication skills?
Well, it starts with, really listening and trying to understand where the other person is coming from. But it also goes beyond that. It's like reading between the lines, picking up on nonverbal cues, and just being sensitive to their emotional state.
So it's not just what they're saying, it's how they're saying it.
Exactly. Imagine you're in a team meeting and someone seems a little hesitant to share their ideas. Instead of just saying, "What do you think?" you could say something like, "I sense you might have some thoughts on this. We'd love to hear your perspective."
Yeah, that's a good example. It's like you're acknowledging their hesitation and creating a safe space for them to contribute.
Exactly. And that's how empathy can really, help build trust and rapport. When people feel heard and understood, they're more likely to open up and share their ideas, and it just creates a more positive and productive work environment.
Okay, so empathy is like the secret ingredient.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's get back to our list of power phrases. We've covered first impressions and navigating discussions. What about the phrases that can help us keep things moving and make sure everyone's on the same page?
Okay, well, a classic one is "I'll follow up with you."
Okay.
Now, it might seem like just a simple courtesy, but it's actually a really powerful way to show accountability. When you say that, you're not only reassuring the person that you've heard their concern, but you're also committing to taking action.
Oh, I never thought about it that way. But you're right. It's like turning a vague promise into a concrete commitment.
Yeah, and in business, trust and reliability are so important.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, what's another phrase that falls under this category?
So we have "let's touch base." It's just a nice way to maintain momentum on a project without being too formal or demanding. It just implies an open line of communication.
I use that one all the time.
Yeah.
But I guess it's more than just a casual check-in. It's about, fostering a sense of collaboration and shared responsibility.
Exactly. It's about creating a dynamic where everyone feels comfortable communicating updates and, working together.
Okay, so we've talked about following up and touching base. What about keeping people informed? Sometimes it's easy to get siloed or people feel left out of the loop.
Yeah, for sure. That's where a phrase like "I'll keep you in the loop" can be really useful. It's simple, but it's effective. You're demonstrating transparency and making sure that everyone feels included.
But is there a risk of over-communicating? Do I really need to keep everyone updated on every single detail?
Yeah, that's where using your judgment comes in. It's about finding a balance between keeping people informed without overwhelming them with too much information.
So be strategic and intentional.
Exactly.
Not just copying everyone on every email.
Right. It's about respecting people's time and attention.
Okay, we're making good progress here.
Yeah.
We've covered first impressions, navigating discussions, and staying on top of things. What's next?
Okay, so now we're moving into the area of collaboration and teamwork.
Okay.
This is where phrases like, what's the timeline, become really important. It's about, setting clear expectations and making sure everyone's on the same page about deadlines.
I like that it's straightforward.
Yeah.
Gets right to the point.
And then we have phrases like, that's a great point, and I appreciate your input. Now, these might seem like simple pleasantries, but they're actually really important for creating a positive team environment.
Yeah, you're acknowledging their contribution and validating their ideas.
Exactly. It's about creating a space where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts,
Without being judged.
Right.
I've definitely been in meetings where people are like afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be like shut down.
It makes a big difference.
Okay, what else?
So then we have, let's table this for now. This is a great way to acknowledge an idea without letting it completely derail the conversation.
Right, the art of the gentle deferral.
Yeah, I like that.
So many meetings get sidetracked.
Totally.
Like one little tangent.
Exactly. And this is a way to say, we hear you, but let's stay focused.
Okay, I'm liking these insights.
And to round out this section on collaboration, we have, how can I assist you?
Okay.
This might seem basic, but it's actually a really powerful way to demonstrate teamwork and support.
Yeah, it's more than just offering help. It's like expressing a willingness to contribute to the team's success.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of mutual support where everyone feels comfortable, asking for help and offering their expertise.
Okay, so we've covered setting a positive tone, navigating discussions, staying organized and collaborating effectively. What's next?
Okay, so now we're moving into the realm of decision-making, action, and leadership.
Yep.
These are the phrases that can really help you drive projects forward and inspire your team to achieve their goals.
Okay, I'm ready for this. But I think we're going to need a little more time to dive into these phrases.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's just save that for the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned, listeners. We'll be right back to explore how to use language to inspire action, drive results, and unleash your inner leader. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into business English. And we're talking about how to use language to really inspire action and drive results and unleash our, inner leaders.
Exactly.
So we've unpacked a lot already. But I think this last set of phrases is where it gets really interesting.
You're right. These final phrases are all about moving from discussion to decision-making and from ideas to action.
Okay, I'm ready.
So let's start with, we need to align on this.
Okay.
This phrase is all about achieving consensus, making sure everyone's moving in the same direction. It's particularly effective when you're facing a complex decision or when there are differing opinions.
Okay, so it's more collaborative than just dictating a decision.
Exactly.
It's more inclusive.
Yeah, you're inviting everyone to participate in the decision-making process.
Right. And that makes people feel more ownership of the outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, so
yeah,
we need to align on this. It's about getting everyone on the same page. What's next?
Okay, so next we have, let's prioritize.
Okay.
This is about, focusing your energy on the most important tasks.
Right, because it's easy to get bogged down.
Totally.
In a million little things.
Especially in a fast-paced business environment.
Yeah.
But this phrase helps you cut through the noise and stay focused on what really matters.
I like it. It's like a mental decluttering tool for your to-do list.
I like that.
It forces you to say no to the things that aren't essential.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got alignment, we've got prioritization.
Yeah.
What other phrases can help us move from talking to doing?
Okay, well, I'd like to emphasize, this is a really good way to draw attention to certain points and make sure they don't get lost.
Okay.
It's particularly useful when you're presenting or leading a discussion or giving feedback.
Oh, it's like a verbal highlighter?
Yeah.
It's like, pay attention. This is important.
Exactly.
Cool. What's next?
Okay, we have, can you provide an update? This one is all about accountability and making sure that projects stay on track.
Okay.
It's a really simple way to request progress reports, gather information, and keep everyone in the loop.
I use that one all the time.
Yeah.
But I guess it's more than just asking for information.
It is.
It's about setting expectations and keeping things moving.
Exactly. And it helps everyone feel accountable for their part of the project.
Okay, so we've covered alignment, prioritization, emphasis, and accountability. What other phrases can help us really inspire action?
Okay, well, there's that classic, we need to think outside the box. I know it's a bit overused, but the sentiment behind it is still really important.
Right.
It's about encouraging creativity, challenging assumptions, and exploring new possibilities.
I admit I kind of roll my eyes when I hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's about the intention. It's about pushing ourselves to be more innovative.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
And finally let's move forward with this plan. This one is all about decisiveness and taking action.
Okay.
It signals that the decision has been made and it's time to get things moving.
It's like a call to action.
Exactly.
All right, we've covered so much today. It's amazing how much power these little phrases have.
I know, it's pretty cool, right?
It's like you've given us a secret decoder ring for business success.
I like that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final question you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Okay, think about this. Beyond these specific phrases, what personal qualities do you think contribute to effective communication? Is it confidence, empathy, active listening?
Ooh, that's good.
Cultivating those qualities can really make you a more impactful communicator.
Yeah, because communication's about so much more than just the words, right? It's about connecting with people and building trust and inspiring action.
Exactly.
So keep practicing and keep refining your communication style. And keep striving to connect with people in meaningful and authentic ways. Until next time, go out there and communicate like a pro. All right, let's dive in. We're taking a look at something pretty fundamental today, basic English greetings.
Ah, yeah.
You actually sent in a script for a language learning video.
Yeah.
Which I think is a super interesting way to think about how we use these phrases, even the ones that seem really simple.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, greetings are interesting because they can be very simple on the surface.
Right.
But there's so much more to them. You know, there's all this cultural context and social nuance that we bring to them.
Yeah. I'm excited to kind of unpack that. So your script actually starts with hello, which seems like the most, kind of universal greeting.
You're right. Hello is something that can be used in almost any situation, whether it's formal or informal. But even though it's versatile, there are some subtle differences in how we use it.
I'm curious about those. What kind of nuances are we talking about here?
Well, if you think about hello compared to hi, your script puts those right next to each other.
Right.
And hello is kind of like the more formal, always appropriate greeting.
Okay.
Like a handshake.
Gotcha.
But hi is a little bit friendlier, a bit more relaxed, more casual.
Oh, hi is more like a fist bump then.
Exactly. Yeah. And you wouldn't really fist bump your boss at a meeting, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how it works with these greetings.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy to kind of make sense of it. Now, your script also has these time-specific greetings. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I've always wondered about these. Are they actually necessary, or can you just use hello for all of them?
I think hello is like the basic greeting, the basic courtesy.
Okay.
But using those time-specific greetings shows that you're, aware of the time of day and the social situation.
Right.
And it's not essential, but it can make a good impression.
So it's almost like you're saying, I'm not just greeting you, I'm also acknowledging the time that we're sharing together.
Exactly. Yeah. And in some cultures, it's really important to use the right greeting for the time of day.
Right.
It shows that you understand and respect their social norms.
That makes sense. So now let's move on to how are you? I feel like I use this phrase all the time, but honestly, I'm usually not really looking for a detailed answer. It's more of a habit than a genuine question.
You've touched on something really important. How are you has kind of become a social ritual. It's less about, finding out how someone is actually feeling.
Right.
And more about just acknowledging them.
So how do we respond to this ritual? Your script gives a few standard responses like, I'm fine, thank you, and you.
Oh.
Or I'm doing well, thanks. Are those the best ways to respond?
Yeah, those are great responses. They keep the conversation flowing without getting too personal.
Right.
You acknowledge the question, give a brief positive answer, and then politely turn the question back to the other person.
It's amazing how much we can pack into these simple phrases. It's like a little secret code.
It really is. And speaking of codes, let's look at what's up. Is this really a genuine question, or is it just a casual greeting?
I feel like what's up is something you hear in movies and TV shows a lot, like a group of friends hanging out. Is it actually that common in everyday conversation?
Oh, it definitely is, especially among friends or peers.
Yeah.
But it's not really an invitation to give a long, detailed answer. It's more like a quick check-in, like, hey, what's going on?
So if someone asks me, what's up, I shouldn't launch into a story about my day.
Right, unless they specifically ask for more details.
Okay.
The script suggests some casual replies like, not much, or just hanging out.
Yep.
Those keep things light and informal.
So it's kind of like, what's up, comes in, says hello, and then flies away.
I like that analogy. It really captures the essence of it. It's about connecting, not necessarily having a deep conversation.
Okay, so we've covered hello, hi, the time-specific greetings, how are you, and what's up. Your script also includes nice to meet you and long time no see. Those seem pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to them than meets the eye.
You're right. I mean, nice to meet you might seem obvious, but it really signals a first-time interaction.
Right.
It's like the formal way to introduce yourself.
And long time no see
Yeah.
means you've met the person before.
Yeah, exactly. It acknowledges that you have some shared history, even if it's just a brief encounter.
Okay.
And it often leads to a conversation about what's happened since you last saw each other.
So long time no see is more than just a greeting. It's a way to reconnect.
That's a great way to put it. It's like an invitation to catch up.
That's really insightful. Okay, the last phrase on your script is, how's it going? We already talked about how are you? How is this one different?
How's it going is a little more informal. And it can be about more things than just how someone is feeling.
Okay.
Like, how are you is usually about their health or well-being. But how's it going? Can be about work or life or just their general mood.
So how's it going? It's kind of like giving them more options.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're inviting them to share, but without putting too much pressure on them.
This is really making me think about all these little differences.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. So your script explains all these greetings really well. I mean, it gives examples and everything. But I wonder, are there any common mistakes people make when using them? Even native English speakers?
Oh, all the time.
Really?
Like sometimes people use a greeting that's too formal for the situation.
Like saying good evening at a lunch with friends.
Exactly. Or using what's up in a job interview.
Oh, yeah. That wouldn't go over well.
No, not at all. And another common mistake is forgetting to reciprocate.
What do you mean?
Like, even if how are you is more of a formality,
Right.
it's still polite to respond and ask the other person how they are.
So it's like an unspoken rule. You have to keep the conversation going.
Exactly. If you ignore someone's greeting, even if it's just a hey,
Right.
it can seem rude.
You mentioned earlier that time-specific greetings can be really important in some cultures. Are there other cultural things to be aware of when using English greetings?
Definitely. Even though English is spoken all over the world,
Right.
the way people greet each other can be different in different cultures.
So it's not just about the words themselves.
No, it's about understanding the cultural context, too.
Does body language play a role in English greetings, like handshakes or hugs?
Oh, absolutely. In formal situations, a handshake is very common.
Okay.
But with close friends or family, hugs might be more appropriate.
And a smile always helps. All right.
A smile makes everyone feel more comfortable.
So for someone who's totally new to English, what advice would you give them about learning these greetings?
I would say to start with the most basic ones.
Okay.
Like, hello, hi, the time-specific greetings, and how are you?
So this is like the foundation.
Exactly. And once you feel comfortable with those, you can start learning some of the more nuanced greetings.
And practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
Your script is really helpful for that. It explains everything so clearly.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm curious, do you think the way we greet each other is changing at all?
That's a good question.
I mean, language is always evolving.
Right.
So maybe greetings are changing too.
With things like texting and social media, we definitely see new greetings popping up.
Yeah, like, hey there, or what's good?
And don't forget about emojis.
Oh, yeah. A wave emoji can be a greeting now.
Right.
It's like we have a whole new language of digital greetings.
Yeah, it is.
But I think those classic greetings will always be around.
I agree. There's something timeless about them.
It's like they're a fundamental part of human connection.
Yeah, I think so.
We've talked about so much today.
We have.
From the simplest greetings to the more complex ones. And even how greetings are changing in the digital age.
It's been a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's been a real eye-opener to think about greetings in this much detail.
Right.
They're so ingrained in how we interact.
It's true. We don't always stop to think about them.
So I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge. As we wrap up this deep dive, think about which greetings you use most often and why.
Interesting.
Is it the classic hello? Or maybe you're more of a what's up person?
Yeah, good point.
Whatever it is, think about what it says about you and how you communicate.
And as you go about your day today, pay attention to how other people use greetings.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Notice the little differences in how they say them, the tone, the body language, all of it.
It's like we're sending you all on a mission.
Yeah, like a greeting detective.
Exactly. You might even find a new greeting that you really like.
Oh, that would be fun.
And then you can add it to your own collection.
Expand your horizons.
All right, well, that's about it for our deep dive into English greetings. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right, so are you ready to unlock the secrets to speaking English fluently?
I think everyone's ready for that.
I know I am. We're going to be diving deep into this guide, 9 secrets to speaking English fluently and easily.
Sounds good to me.
And hopefully we'll be able to break down the techniques that'll help anyone reach fluency.
Yeah, because who doesn't want a cheat sheet for fluency?
Exactly. Cut through the clutter, get right to what works.
And what I think is really cool about this guide is that it's not your typical textbook stuff.
Oh, really?
It's like it dives into the mindset
Oh, wow.
and the strategies you need to actually make it happen in the real world.
So it's not all about just memorizing verb conjugations and all that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's jump right into the first secret then, embracing the learner's mindset.
Okay?
Sounds pretty basic, but what does that actually look like, in practice?
It's all about seeing those stumbles, those fumbles, those inevitable mistakes as like opportunities to learn.
Okay.
Instead of like beating yourself up over them.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're learning to play a really complex piece of music on the piano.
Oh, gosh.
You wouldn't expect to just nail it on the first try, would you?
Definitely not. I'd be hitting all the wrong notes, probably.
Exactly. And each one of those like mistakes, they're giving you valuable feedback. They're telling you, okay, adjust your technique here, and eventually you'll get to that flawless performance.
I like that analogy a lot.
And language is so similar.
Oh, yeah.
Like every time you kind of mess up, you're actually gaining these insights into how this amazing language works.
That's true.
I remember when I was learning Italian,
Oh, yeah.
I kept using the wrong preposition for this one particular sentence structure.
Oh, gosh.
And it was so frustrating. But instead of giving up, I decided to really analyze it, like what was going on there. And you know what? I ended up discovering this subtle little nuance that I had completely missed before.
Oh, wow.
And my understanding of prepositions just like skyrocketed after that.
That's a perfect example of how just reframing those mistakes can lead to these breakthroughs.
Totally.
But like, how can someone listening actually cultivate this learner's mindset? Like, what are some practical things they can do?
Well, this guide actually gives a couple of really good practical methods.
Okay.
One is to start a progress journal.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just take a few minutes each day to jot down what you've learned, maybe what went well, what you struggled with.
Okay.
Because then when you look back and you see how far you've come, it's incredibly motivating.
I love that. I love the progress journal idea because it's like a tangible record of your growth.
Yes.
Especially on those days where you feel like, ugh, I'm not getting anywhere. You can look back and be like, wow, I've come a long way.
It's so powerful.
Yeah. What about like rewarding yourself for those wins, even the small ones? Does that tie into this?
Oh, absolutely. Celebrating those milestones helps reinforce positive learning habits.
Okay.
And it keeps you motivated, whether it's a small treat
Yeah.
or watching an episode of your favorite show.
Yeah.
Even just taking a break to do something you enjoy. Those little rewards, they go a long way.
I like that. All right, so let's move on to secret number 2. Speaking as often as possible, even if you're alone.
Okay.
I have to admit, I've definitely caught myself like having conversations with my plants in English before.
I think we've all been there.
But, I mean, is that actually helpful?
It might sound a little silly,
Yeah.
but there's actually some solid science behind this.
Okay.
Because every time you speak, you're engaging those muscles that are involved in producing those specific sounds.
I've never thought about that.
It's like working out at the gym, but for your vocal cords and your brain.
Oh, wow.
I remember when I was getting ready for a big presentation in Spanish,
Okay.
and I was pretty nervous about it, so I started practicing out loud, even when I was alone in my apartment.
You were just talking to yourself.
Yeah, I would like pace around talking to this imaginary audience, asking them questions, responding to their reactions.
Oh, wow.
It felt a little awkward at first.
Yeah.
But the more I did it, the more natural it became.
So it's all about building that muscle memory.
Yes.
Getting your brain and your mouth used to forming those sounds.
Exactly.
Cool. And the best part is you can do it anytime, anywhere.
All right.
You know, narrate your day, have these imaginary debates, sing along to English songs. Just get those words flowing.
Exactly. Just find those opportunities to speak and let it flow.
Speaking of flow, that leads us perfectly into the next secret.
Okay.
Which emphasizes the power of listening. Why is listening so important for fluency?
Well, think about how we all learned our first language. We spent months, maybe even years, just absorbing those sounds and patterns before we ever even uttered a word.
Yeah.
So listening, it's really the foundation upon which we build our understanding of any language.
You know what? I've actually noticed that when I spend a lot of time watching movies or TV shows in English, my pronunciation and intonation actually improve.
Interesting.
It's like my brain's subconsciously picking up on those nuances.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like you're immersing yourself in the language.
Right.
Even if it's just virtually.
Yeah.
And this guide, it actually has some great suggestions for maximizing your listening practice.
I'm assuming podcasts are one of them.
Oh, podcasts are amazing.
I love podcasts.
And there's honestly something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, if you're interested in news analysis, you could try The Daily from the New York Times.
Okay.
Or if you want, like, science and storytelling, there's this really cool podcast called Radio Lab.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
And if you're looking for something a little more humorous,
Okay.
I highly recommend My Dad Wrote a Porno.
That sounds hilarious.
So funny.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. And of course, we can't forget about music.
Of course not.
Such a great way to not only pick up new vocabulary and idioms and slang, but also just to kind of get that pronunciation and intonation in a fun way.
Right. Because it's way more fun than just doing drills.
Yes, exactly.
Singing along.
So much more enjoyable.
Much better.
Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of language learning.
All right.
Secret number 4, chunking and collocations.
Love these.
Can you break down for us what those are and why they're so important for fluency?
Okay, so imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
It would take forever if you had to lay each brick one by one, right?
Yeah, that would be very time-consuming.
Chunking and collocations are like having these prefabricated walls and roof sections.
Oh.
So you could assemble things much faster.
Okay.
And create a more, like, cohesive structure.
I'm liking this analogy. So instead of focusing on individual words, we should be looking for these chunks of language.
Yes. And these chunks are called collocations.
Okay.
They're so common in English.
Okay.
For example, we say heavy rain,
Okay.
not strong rain.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or make a decision,
Yeah.
not take a decision.
I see. I think I do that sometimes.
And that's where these collocations come in. They help you sound more natural and fluent by using combinations that native speakers just instinctively use.
Yeah, because I noticed that sometimes, like, I know all the vocabulary, but I can't quite figure out how to put them together in the right way.
Exactly.
So how can I listeners start incorporating these chunking and collocations into their routine?
So one really simple technique is to create what's called a phrase notebook.
Okay.
So as you're reading or listening and you come across these collocations, just jot them down in your notebook,
Okay.
along with their meanings and maybe some example sentences.
I like that. And I would assume that these space repetition apps we talked about earlier would also be helpful for this.
Oh, they're amazing for this.
Yeah.
Because space repetition helps move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory
Okay.
by presenting you with that material at gradually increasing intervals.
Gotcha.
So it's like having a personal trainer, but for your vocabulary.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to secret number 5. And this one might be reassuring to our listener.
Okay.
It's okay to simplify your sentence structures, especially at the beginning.
Especially at the beginning.
Does that mean we don't have to worry about grammar?
No, grammar's still important.
Okay.
But fluency isn't about trying to build these like super complex sentences right away.
Right.
Actually, using shorter, simpler sentences can make you sound more confident and more fluent,
Interesting.
especially when you're still developing your skills.
So it's more about clarity and conciseness than trying to, sound super smart with your grammar.
Exactly. Imagine you're explaining like a really complex concept to someone.
Okay.
It's way easier to understand if you break it down into smaller, bite-sized chunks, right?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely get caught up sometimes trying to construct these elaborate sentences, and it just ends up sounding confusing.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So there's a really simple technique from the guide.
Okay.
You start with a basic sentence,
Uh-huh.
like, I enjoy reading.
Okay.
Then you gradually add details and complexity.
Oh, I like that.
So you could say, I enjoy reading books about history.
Okay.
And then expand it further. I enjoy reading books about history, especially biographies of influential leaders.
So you're building upon that simple sentence.
Yes.
Without making it overly complicated.
Exactly.
So it's finding that balance between clarity and complexity.
Yes.
And, starting simple and then gradually working your way up.
That's the key. And don't be afraid to experiment and see what feels more natural for you.
Yeah.
You might find that certain sentence structures are easier for you to produce than others.
Right.
The important thing is to keep practicing, keep refining those skills.
Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Or at least progress.
Or at least progress, yeah.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the secrets of fluent English.
So we've already uncovered some really cool strategies so far.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
But, I'm always up for more tips and tricks, you know what I mean? What else does this guide have in store for us?
It talks a lot about staying curious.
Okay.
And making your learning engaging.
I can definitely see how that would be important. Like if you're genuinely interested in something, it's got to be way easier to stay motivated, right?
Exactly. It's like instead of slogging through those boring textbook exercises,
oh, yeah.
you're exploring subjects that actually pique your curiosity.
Right.
Whether it's, technology, sports, global news.
Okay.
Even something like cooking or fashion.
Ooh, fashion.
That's a good one.
Imagine diving into the world of fashion magazines and blogs and documentaries all in English.
Yeah.
You'd not only be picking up new vocabulary, but you'd also be gaining these insights into cultural trends and perspectives.
Totally. That's exactly what it's all about.
Okay.
And it brings us to another important aspect of fluency, cultural immersion.
Oh, okay.
Because language is so much more than just, words and grammar.
Right.
It's a reflection of a culture's values, its history, its way of life.
I like that. So by immersing ourselves in English language media, we're kind of getting a deeper understanding of the culture that shapes the language.
Yeah, it's like you're getting this backstage pass to how native speakers actually think and express themselves.
That's cool. So it's not just about memorizing vocabulary lists. You're connecting with the heart and soul of the language.
Yes, exactly.
I love those aha moments. When you finally grasp a tricky grammar concept.
Yeah.
Or you effortlessly use a new idiom in conversation.
The best feeling.
But this guide really emphasizes acknowledging even the small victories.
Yes.
Those tiny steps forward that might seem insignificant at the time. Why is that so important?
It's all about maintaining motivation and momentum.
Okay.
Because language learning, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
For sure.
And there are going to be times when you hit a plateau, you feel discouraged.
Yeah, definitely been there.
But if you can train yourself to recognize and appreciate those tiny little sparks of progress,
okay,
it makes all the difference in staying the course.
It's like those fitness trackers that celebrate every 1,000 steps you take.
Yes.
Even if you haven't quite reached your daily goal yet.
Exactly. It's like those little nudges of encouragement.
They can be really motivating.
Very motivating. And it's important to celebrate those wins in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
So maybe it's treating yourself to a fancy coffee or watching an episode of your favorite show.
Okay.
Or just taking a moment to savor that feeling of accomplishment.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about staying curious, immersing ourselves in the culture, celebrating those small wins.
Yeah.
What about the practical side of things?
Okay.
How does this guide recommend structuring our study time?
It offers this sample weekly plan
Okay.
that emphasizes a balance between focused study
Uh-huh.
and then real-world application.
I like that.
And of course, you can tailor it to your own needs and preferences.
Right.
But the general idea is to dedicate specific blocks of time
Okay.
to different aspects of language learning.
Got it. So, for example, Mondays could be for grammar review
Yes.
and maybe practicing conversation with a language partner.
Perfect. Exactly. Then midweek, you might focus on expanding your vocabulary,
Okay.
maybe by learning new collocations
Oh, yeah.
related to a topic that you're passionate about.
Cool.
You could read articles, listen to podcasts, even watch documentaries on that subject.
Uh-huh.
And actively jot down any interesting phrases or expressions that you come across.
I like that. And maybe Fridays could be for fine-tuning pronunciation through drills or shadowing exercises.
Exactly. And don't forget to leverage the weekend for immersive experiences.
Okay.
Maybe you attend an English language meetup.
Oh, cool.
Or you watch a movie without subtitles.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or you just chat with a friend in English.
Okay.
Those real-life interactions are so valuable.
Yeah, it sounds like the key is to create a routine that works for you and then stick to it consistently.
Absolute. Consistency is key.
Okay, but let's circle back to those 9 secrets for a second.
Okay.
And see if there are any specific strategies that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
I know we talked about chunking and collocations in the first part.
Yeah.
Any additional tips on how to really master those?
One thing this guide emphasizes is the importance of context.
Okay.
So don't just memorize collocations in isolation. Try to encounter them in their natural habitat, so to speak.
Okay.
Pay attention to how they're used in articles, books, movies, conversations.
It's like learning a new dance move. You know, you can watch videos and try to mimic the steps.
Yeah.
But it's not until you actually get out on the dance floor
Yeah.
and try it out in a real setting that you truly understand how it works.
I love that analogy.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, the more you encounter those collocations in those authentic contexts,
Okay.
the later you'll understand their nuances and how to use them effectively.
Okay, so context is key. What about those of us who tend to overthink our sentences
Yeah.
and get stuck in grammar land?
Oh, yeah.
Any advice for overcoming that?
The guide reminds us that fluency is not about grammatical perfection.
Okay.
It's about conveying your message clearly and confidently, even if your sentences aren't perfectly structured.
So it's better to speak like a slightly imperfect sentence fluently
Yes.
than to stumble over a grammatically perfect sentence.
Exactly. And remember that technique we talked about earlier, sentence expansion?
Oh, yeah.
You can start with a basic sentence and gradually add details and complexity as you become more comfortable.
I like that. So the key is to prioritize clarity and flow over grammatical intricacy.
Especially in spoken English, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm curious about those techniques we discussed for refining pronunciation, like reading aloud and shadowing.
Yeah.
Any additional tips for getting the most out of those?
Absolutely, when you're reading aloud, try to focus not only on the accuracy of your pronunciation,
Okay.
but also on the rhythm and intonation of the language.
So it's not just about saying the words correctly, but also about capturing that natural flow and expressiveness.
It's like adding musicality to your speech.
Oh, I like that a lot. And what about shadowing?
Okay, so one helpful tip is to break down the audio clip into smaller chunks.
Okay.
So instead of trying to shadow a whole podcast episode,
Right.
you could start with a short segment, maybe a minute or two.
Okay.
Listen to it several times, paying attention to the speaker's pronunciation and intonation. Then pause the audio and try to mimic the speaker as closely as possible.
Gotcha. So it's like practicing a short musical phrase on an instrument,
Yeah.
getting each note and nuance just right before moving on to the next phrase.
I love that analogy. It's perfect. And just like with music practice, consistency is key.
Okay.
Even a few minutes of shadowing practice each day can really improve your pronunciation and fluency over time.
I know we've talked about setting SMART goals, but sometimes the sheer scope of language learning can feel overwhelming.
Yes.
Any advice for like breaking down those fluency aspirations into more manageable chunks?
The guide suggests setting smaller, more specific goals
Okay.
that align with your overall fluency objectives.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of simply aiming to improve my vocabulary,
Yeah.
you could set a goal to learn 10 new collocations related to travel each week.
I like that that's much more concrete and measurable.
Yes, exactly. And it feels much more attainable than just saying, I want to learn all the English words.
Right. And it's still contributing to that broader goal of fluency.
Exactly. And don't forget to track your progress.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you use a notebook, a spreadsheet, a language learning app, having that visual representation of your achievements can be so motivating.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this segment, exploring all these practical tips and strategies for boosting fluency.
We have.
But before we move on to our final thoughts,
Okay.
I want to circle back to that concept of balance for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about balancing focused study with real-world application.
Right.
But what about balancing the different elements of language learning itself?
That's such a good point. Remember that three-legged stool analogy we discussed earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Fluency is built on that solid foundation of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. And neglecting any one of those areas can weaken that entire structure.
It's so tempting to focus on the areas we enjoy most.
Yeah.
Like, I love reading, so I could spend hours reading English novels
Yeah.
or binge watching TV shows, but then maybe I neglect those grammar exercises or pronunciation drills.
Yeah, it's natural to gravitate towards what we find enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it's so important to find that balance
Okay.
that ensures that you're dedicating sufficient time and attention to all three legs of the stool.
So how can our listener make sure they're maintaining that balance?
The guide suggests creating a cyclical practice schedule
Okay.
where you alternate between those different areas of language learning.
Okay.
So, for instance, you might focus on grammar exercises and conversation practice on Mondays,
Okay.
vocabulary building and writing on Wednesdays,
Gotcha.
and pronunciation drills and listening comprehension on Fridays.
So you're cycling through
Exactly.
and hitting all those different areas.
Yes. And of course, you can adjust the schedule to fit your own preferences and learning style.
Right. It's all about finding what works for you.
That's the key.
That's a great reminder because it's so easy to get caught up in one aspect of language learning and neglect the others.
Yeah.
But just like with a balanced diet, variety is key for overall fluency health.
I love that analogy. Variety is key.
All right, so here we are at the final part of our fluency deep dive.
Yeah, we've explored 9 secrets, a whole bunch of strategies. Now we just got to like bring it all together.
So it's like our fluency action plan, ready to go to put it all into practice.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So what are like the key takeaways, the biggest ha moments from this whole guide?
You know, one of the most powerful ideas is that fluency. It's not like this finish line you cross. You know? It's this ongoing process. It's a journey of discovery and growth.
I like that because then you can enjoy the process and like celebrate those milestones.
Exactly. And it kind of ties in with that whole learner's mindset thing. You know, it's shifting away from that fear of making mistakes.
Right.
To being curious about what you can learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, when you're not afraid to stumble, you're more likely to experiment, take risks.
Totally.
And really immerse yourself.
But mistakes can be discouraging sometimes, especially when you feel like you're stuck.
Right.
So how can our listener, use this guide to kind of break through those plateaus?
Well, immersion is key, you know.
Okay.
This guide really emphasizes surrounding yourself with English as much as possible.
Yeah.
So podcasts, movies, music, even social media.
Yeah, I've been really into documentaries lately.
Oh, nice.
And there are so many good ones in English. It's like a great way to learn about different topics and improve my listening at the same time.
That's awesome. And remember the power of real-world interactions.
Right.
Whether it's through language exchange apps or conversation clubs or just chatting with friends.
Yeah.
Those authentic experiences, they're so essential.
So it's putting those skills to the test in the real world.
Exactly. Which can be a little scary at first, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to one of the most practical strategies from the guide, chunking and collocations.
Yes.
Like, it's such a good way to sound more natural and fluent.
I think such.
Instead of searching for the individual words, you just have these ready-made chunks.
It's like a secret weapon.
Exactly. So the more you see these collocations in real situations, the better you'll understand them.
Exactly. So it's not just about memorizing those lists.
Right.
It's about like observing how those phrases are used in real life.
Yeah.
Like noticing how a character in a movie uses a particular phrase.
Yeah.
Or paying attention to like the word combinations in a news article.
So paying attention to those little things.
Exactly. And for those who get kind of bogged down by the grammar, remember fluency. It's not about perfection.
So it's okay to start with those simpler sentences.
Absolutely. And gradually add that complexity as you get more comfortable.
Right. Just focus on getting your message across.
Yes.
Okay. And then last but not least, those techniques for refining pronunciation, reading aloud, and shadowing.
Those are good ones.
Any final tips to make those even more effective?
So when you're reading aloud, try to really embody the language.
Okay.
Pay attention to that rhythm, intonation, the pauses, the emphasis, like you're an actor delivering a line.
Oh, channeling your inner Shakespeare.
Exactly. And when you're shadowing, focus on those smaller chunks.
Yeah.
Listen really closely to how that speaker is shaping those sounds and try to mimic them.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to record yourself. And then listen back.
Because sometimes it's eye-opening.
It's like, whoa, that's what I sounds like.
Exactly. And when it comes to staying motivated, remember those specific achievable goals.
Those SMART goals, right?
Yes.
But don't just vaguely aim for fluency.
Right.
Break it down into those smaller steps.
Exactly. So, for example, you could say, I'm going to learn 5 new idioms related to work this week.
Okay.
Or I'm going to practice shadowing for 10 minutes each day.
Okay.
Because those concrete targets, they'll help you stay focused.
And track that progress, so you can see how far you've come.
It's encouraging, especially on those days when you're not feeling so motivated.
Totally. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, got to bring it back to balance one last time.
Yes.
Fluency, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. Make sure you're nurturing all 3.
All 3 legs of the steel.
Exactly. So, if you're spending hours and hours on vocabulary, but you're not practicing your pronunciation.
Yeah, you got to shift your focus a little bit.
Got to find that equilibrium.
Exactly. And remember, the best way to learn is by doing. Don't be afraid to step outside that comfort zone.
Right.
And use your English in real-life situations.
Exactly. So like ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, chatting with a stranger.
Yeah, those interactions, they'll build your skills and your confidence.
So there you have it. 9 secrets, a ton of strategies, and a reminder. Enjoy the journey.
Embrace it.
This guy asks a great question. How will you personalize these secrets and make them your own?
It's up to you.
So reflect on what you learned today and start creating your own path. Remember, language learning's an adventure. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep sharing your gift of language.
Until next time, happy language learning. Ever get that feeling like English is playing a little prank on you? You know, like it's got these secret rules. Today we're doing a deep dive into some tricky nouns, words that even native speakers can trip over sometimes. Like think advice, equipment, even the word news. Like these words are so common, but they have these weird little rules. So our mission, today is to help you kind of steer clear of those grammatical potholes. And yeah, just help you sound even smarter, more confident with your English.
Yeah, it is kind of fascinating how these simple words can kind of open up these deeper complexities, I guess you could say, about language, and even, I think, how we look at the world.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so wisdom time, lay it on me. So let's just start with this idea of uncountable nouns. What's the deal with that?
Well, imagine you're trying to count water. So you can have some water or, a lot of water, but could you have 3 waters? It doesn't work that way. And uncountable nouns work kind of the same way. They represent these ideas or things that are seen as a whole, not really individual units.
So it's more about the stuff itself, not individual pieces of it.
Exactly. So take the word advice. Someone might give you a piece of advice, but never 5 advices. It's that whole concept of guidance that's being conveyed.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So are there any clues that can help us spot these uncountable nouns when we come across them?
Often, are kind of abstract ideas like information or knowledge. You can have lots of information, but you don't have many informations.
This is making me realize how much we rely on context to understand the meaning. Like knowledge, that's a good example. You could expand your knowledge, but you never expand your knowledges.
Exactly. The context tells us we're talking about this collective whole, not really separate pieces. And this can be a real head scratcher for people who are learning English, especially if their native language treats these concepts kind of in a different way, I guess.
It's like English is testing us. It's like, let's see if they can figure this out. Okay, so what are some other, uncountable nouns that kind of trip people up?
Well, furniture is a big one. Think about it. You can have a room full of furniture, but you wouldn't say, 10 furnitures.
Yeah, unless you're playing some kind of weird furniture-themed board game.
That's true, yeah. But in regular, everyday language, it's always about the collection as a whole.
Okay, so advice, information, knowledge, furniture, I'm starting to get it. What else should we watch out for?
News is a sneaky one. It looks plural, but it's actually a singular, uncountable noun. You hear about the news or a piece of news. You never hear about many news, right?
That one always throws me off. It feels like, there are multiple pieces of news all the time.
Right, and there are. But the word itself, it's talking about this concept of current events, not separate stories. It's like a river of information constantly flowing.
I like that. It's making me see the word news in a whole new light. So what about things that come in sets or groups, like luggage?
Ah, yes. So luggage and baggage, those are both uncountable nouns. You can have many suitcases, but it's always luggage or baggage, never luggages or baggages.
So even if I have just one little carry-on, it's still considered luggage.
That's right. It refers to the whole collection of items you're traveling with, regardless of the number of pieces.
Okay, so luggage is officially added to my uncountable nouns list. What about hair? I've heard people get that one wrong a lot.
Yeah, so you've probably heard people talk about finding a hair in their food, right? And that's correct when you're referring to a single strand. But when you're talking about the mass of hair on your head, it's always just hair, never hairs.
So it's that collective whole, again, not individual strands unless they're, I guess, out of place, like in your soup.
Exactly. Context is key here.
This is making me wonder, are there any historical reasons why some of these words ended up being uncountable in English? Like, is there some logic to it?
There are some interesting theories out there. Like, for example, the word news being singular. It might have roots in its early association with tidings, which is seen as this singular big announcement.
That is interesting. So maybe it's not just random grammar rules, but maybe it gives us a glimpse into how people thought about these concepts way back when.
Yeah, I think so. Language is constantly changing, but it carries traces of its past. It's fascinating.
Okay, so we've got advice, information, knowledge, furniture, news, luggage, and hair. What other uncountable nouns should we add to our list?
Let's do a few more that tend to cause some confusion. So when we talk about the material itself, paper is uncountable. You would ask for a piece of paper, not a paper, unless you're talking about a specific document like a research paper.
Ah, so that's how it becomes countable when it refers to a specific piece of writing.
Exactly. And work follows a similar pattern. When you're talking about tasks and effort, it's uncountable. You have a lot of work, not many works.
Unless you're talking about, Shakespeare's works, which are individual pieces of writing.
Yes, precisely. So context, again, plays a big role here in whether these nouns are countable or uncountable.
Okay, paper and work, got it. What else is out there?
Research and evidence, those two can be a little tricky. You conduct research, you never conduct researches. And you might find a piece of evidence, never many evidences.
Those are really good ones to keep in mind. I've seen people make those mistakes in writing before.
It's a common slip-up, but, now you can avoid it. And for our last uncountable noun, let's talk about toast.
Wait, toast? But you can have multiple pieces of toast, can't you?
Yes, but when we're talking about, the food itself, toast is uncountable, so you have slices of toast, not toasts.
That one is surprising, but I guess it makes sense if you think of it as that concept of toasted bread rather than, counting each individual slice.
Exactly. And of course, you can make a toast at a celebration, in which case then toast becomes countable because it's referring to that specific act or gesture.
Wow, toast is quite the word. So these uncountable nouns are full of surprises, but you've done a great job explaining them for us. What's next? Okay, so we've talked about uncountable nouns, those words that resist the whole plural thing. But English, it wouldn't be English if it didn't throw us a few more curveballs, would it?
Oh, absolutely. English just loves to keep us on our toes. And one way it does that is with those irregular plurals, with the words that just they break all the rules.
Yeah, bring all those rule breakers. I'm ready. So what's first on our list?
Well, let's start with a word that I think causes a lot of confusion, especially, in the workplace, staff.
Okay, staff seems pretty simple. What's the catch?
Well, staff, it's usually treated like a collective noun. So it refers to a group of people, but as a single unit, like a team.
Okay, so if I wanted to, compliment the staff at my favorite restaurant, would I say the staff is amazing or the staff are amazing?
That's where things get a little tricky. So in American English, we usually use a singular verb with staff. So you'd say, the staff is amazing.
Okay. But I've definitely heard people say, the staff are going on strike.
Yeah, and you're right. In British English, it's more common to use a plural verb with staff, especially, when you want to empathize those individual members of that group.
So it's one of those American British English things. Got it. Staff is singular in the U.S., plural in the U.K. Okay, what's next on our list of these irregular plurals?
Let's talk about police. This is another one that I think throws people off. It's always plural, no matter what.
So even if I just see, one police officer walking down the street, I would still say, the police are here.
Yes, exactly. Grammatically speaking, police is considered a plural noun, and it's referring to, that whole body of law enforcement. So if you want to refer to, one single officer, you would use police officer.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see how that one could be confusing.
Yeah, it's a pretty common mistake, but, now you'll know. Speaking of common mistakes, let's move on to people.
People. Okay, so that one seems pretty straightforward. It's just the plural of person, right?
Right, but even with this simple word, I think we can run into some grammatical issues sometimes. Because people is plural, you'd use many, not much with it. So it's many people, not much people.
Ah, okay. So it's like saying many dogs, not much dogs. It's about remembering that people, even though it refers to this big group, it's still countable.
Yeah, exactly. It's those little distinctions that make English so fun, right?
Well, and they also make it kind of a minefield, I think, for people who aren't familiar with, all the ins and outs. So what else? What other irregular plurals should we know about?
Okay, so let's talk about some Latin and Greek plurals. These are words that English borrowed from other languages and, they brought their own plural forms with them.
Oh, Latin and Greek. That brings back some memories, not always good ones, of high school language classes.
Don't worry, these aren't too bad. But they are good to know because they pop up, all the time. So let's start with criteria.
Criteria. That one always sounds so formal to me.
Well, it is often used in more formal situations, and it's also one that people often use as a singular noun, but actually criteria is the plural form of criterion.
Okay, so let me see if I get this. If I was applying for a scholarship, I might say the main criterion for this scholarship is community involvement. But if there are, many different requirements, I'd say the scholarship committee uses several criteria to evaluate applicants.
Yes, you got it.
I have seen criteria misused as a singular noun. I've even seen it in published articles.
Yeah, it happens more often than you might think, but now, so you can get it right in your writing. And while we're talking about Latin plurals, let's do another one, phenomena.
Okay, phenomena. That's the plural of phenomenon, right?
You got it. And this is another one that trips people up sometimes. You might hear someone say, that's a strange phenomenon, when really they should be saying a strange phenomenon.
So the aurora borealis is a beautiful natural phenomenon. But if we were talking about many different events, we'd say scientists are studying various meteorological phenomena.
Exactly. You're getting it. Are you ready for one more tricky plural before we move on?
Yeah, bring it on. I'm feeling more confident about these now.
Okay, this one's kind of a wild card. It's media. So technically, media is the plural of medium, when you're talking about channels of communication.
Like television, radio, newspapers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. So in modern usage, media often acts like a singular noun, a collective noun.
So you might hear someone say the media is biased, even though, technically media is plural.
That's right. It's become so common to just use media as a singular noun that, it's pretty widely accepted at this point. However, in formal writing, especially in academic context, you might see a preference for using media with a plural verb, especially when you're talking about like many different platforms. So you might also hear like the media are reporting on the election from many different angles.
So it's a bit of a gray area then.
Yeah, I think so. I think the important thing is to just be aware of, both usages and to choose the one that feels right in that situation.
Yeah, media is definitely one I'm going to be watching out for. Okay, so we've got staff, police, people, criteria, phenomena, and media. What else are we diving into today? So we've tackled those uncountable nouns, and we've wrestled with those irregular plurals. What other, noun-related mysteries are we solving today?
Well, let's look at a category that's all about context. So these are words that can kind of like shift between countable and uncountable depending on, how they're being used.
Ooh, okay, so grammatical chameleons. I like it. Give me an example.
Okay, so let's go back to paper, a word we talked about earlier. We know that it's uncountable when we're talking about the material itself, but what happens when you're talking about, essays or research papers?
Ah, okay, I see what you mean. So like, can I have some paper for my notes? That's uncountable. But if I say I have to write 3 papers for my literature class, now it's countable.
Exactly. In those academic situations, paper becomes countable because it's like, a specific defined piece of writing.
It's kind of like how work can go from uncountable effort to like countable creations.
You got it. Work can be like, the daily grind, like, oh, I have so much work to do. Or it can refer to like those tangible results, like the museum is showcasing the works of local artists. It's really interesting how one word can have such like different meanings.
Like English has all these secret codes, So what other words play this this countable, uncountable game?
Well, fruit is a good one. Think about it. Like when you're just talking about fruit in general as like a healthy part of your diet, it's usually uncountable.
Yeah, like I try to eat fruit every day. But what about when you're talking about specific types of fruit, like apples or oranges?
Right. Then fruit becomes countable. So you might say like, this fruit salad has like 5 different fruits in it.
So fruit can be singular or plural, countable or uncountable. It just depends on what you want to say.
Exactly. It's a flexible word. It adapts. And for our last shape-shifting noun, let's go back to toast.
Wait, toast, but we already talked about that. It's an uncountable noun for the food, right?
I did. But remember, like, toast can also mean, like, the act of raising a glass, to celebrate something or someone. And in that case, it becomes, a countable event.
Oh, right. So I'd like some toast with breakfast. That's uncountable. But let's all raise a toast to the newlyweds. That's countable. It's like toast has 2 different lives.
I guess you could say that. So toast, the food, stays uncountable. But a toast, like the gesture, that's countable. English is just full of these funny little quirks, I guess.
It's really amazing how much depth there is to these, seemingly simple words. So what's the big takeaway here from all this deep dive we've done on these confusing English nouns?
I think the key is to just be open to the fact that language is flexible. It's always changing. Even, native speakers come across these tricky situations, and it's okay. I think the more we pay attention to context and we try to understand the rules and, those acceptances to the rules, and we appreciate all those subtle meanings, I think the more confident we become in using the language.
I like that. It's not about being perfect. It's about being curious and just being able to adapt. So maybe as a final thought for our listeners, just, keep your ears open. Pay attention to how these nouns are being used in conversation, in the books you read, articles. You might be surprised at what you notice.
Oh, absolutely. The world of language is it's full of discoveries.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and You know what? Just embrace those quirks of the English language. Until next time, happy learning.